You let me know when you're ready, Robin. Thanks, Laura. All right, we're just back in public session now, and we're coming back to the item on today's agenda, which is the annual report. We're just waiting for Mr. Mackey to join us, our auditor. The annual report is on pages 189 to 202 of your agenda, and then in your attachments, separate document, you'll find the annual report. We've had tabled the Mayor and Chief Executives forward to the report, and the only thing just when you read that Mayor/CE forward, that'll be written out, for Chief Executive. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's all right.
We corrected or added a little bit. There's a little bit of commentary to the 12 million housing to clarify it was actually 19.
Yes, that's been added in.
Have we got another?
Not yet.
Have we got another sheet?
No, that hasn't been in this version.
Through the chair, no, but it will be added in to the final.
Okay, in the final version, just so we're waiting for Mr. Mackey, when you come to the paragraph that relates to the housing, the sale of our community housing to Kāinga Ora, we'll put in there the full sale price, so that it's shown in the body of the annual report, but we just need to put it in there for context. All right, so hopefully it's not too far away. So perhaps we'll just start with the officers' report, and I'll go to the officers to speak to the report.
Through the chair, we're happy to take it as read and just answer any questions on it.
Any questions for the team on the annual report? Pages 189 to 202 in your agenda. So, any questions? No questions? It's really straightforward. We've done many annual reports before. Everything is in order. I understand we've got the letter from Mr. Mackey. I think that's the document I've got here. The draft, we've got the independent auditor's report and the opinion on audited information. There is an emphasis of matter in relation to the government's Three Waters reform program as per the long-term plan. That remains on all of the annual reports for local government at the moment. I think he's not too far away. I hope we haven't missed him. Okay. Go to Councillor Eger. It's got a question.
I was just going to note, because I'm not sure what's just been tabled, but I had a few minor amendments to the forward that would probably just fall under the resolution of minor editorial comments, and similarly to the annual report body itself. I know Laura had captured those, so I'll assume they've all been circulated to people, and I guess just noting that we had quite an extensive review and discussion of the annual report at Audit, Finance and Risk Subcommittee as well previously. So, yep. Thank you.
We did, and we've got a table document with all of the changes, and Laura gave me the thumbs up. She's incorporated the last changes to the forward. It just isn't in the one that we've got in front of us. They're minor editorials. It's all good. Okay, thank you. And anything else I can tell you about the letter? All right. Financial statements present fairly in respect of all matters in relation to the City Council's and Group's position. Applies with generally accepted accounting practices, public benefit entity reporting standards, Financial impact statements presents fairly in all material respects. Similarly, for the levels of service for each group. Statement about capital expenditure for each group of activities presents fairly in all material respects. Similarly, for the funding impact statements. And if you think we should just press it, hit and adopt it? All right, so the only thing I need to make, so in terms, are you happy with me just to try and paraphrase what's in the letter? Or would you like to do that, Nikki? I'm doing my very best here. So in terms of the disclosures, we report the City Council has complied with requirements of Schedule 10 of the Act that apply to annual reports, and we've made the disclosures about performance against benchmarks as required by the appropriate regulations. And we do have the emphasis of matter in relation to the government's 3 Waters Reform Programme announcement, so that remains. Anything else that we should highlight, Nikki?
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, I would, from my perspective, this is a standard audit report and commentary. I mean, as you've mentioned, there's the emphasis of matter, which we were expecting to get in relation to the uncertainty around the 3 waters. But from my perspective, it's a very clean audit, and the audit process and the interactions with audit was very, very smooth this year. So.
Right, thank you. In that case, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor McGurk. Oh no, Councillor Eager, actually, she was, yes, Councillor Eager. Councillor Eager, remember we had a deal earlier on. Elaine's already got it in the agenda in there. Any questions? Just pass our thanks back to the audit team, back to Mr. Mackey and his team for completing the audit. I know it's been a very difficult time for them with the restrictions on the border from COVID-19. You recall Mr. Mackey's talk previously about they usually bring teams across from Australia, so that will have put some constraints. But I also want to acknowledge the work that's gone in from our team in presenting all of the material and preparing it for the annual report, and thank you very much for a very well put together document and very effective and efficient process. And here is Mr. Mackey joining us now. So I'll just see if we can get John on the line. Oh, welcome, John. Hopefully you can hear me all right, and welcome. I'm sorry we've been somewhat delayed today. I've just had a go at summarising your letter on our annual report, covering off the matters, but if there's anything that you particularly want to highlight for us, I'll give you that opportunity now just before we resolve to adopt the annual report.
Right. So the audit opinion that we propose to issue is an unmodified opinion, but we are including an emphasis of matter regarding the 3 Waters reform to highlight to readers that from 1st of July 2024, 3 Waters will no longer be performed by Nelson City Council, but that's consistent with all territorial authorities, unitary authorities around the country. So it's not a criticism of Nelson City Council. So in terms of the audit, the challenges for the audit, one was the sale of the community housing. So included in the arrangement there was 5.1 million for capped fund amounts, and so that wasn't treated as being proceeds of the sale. It's been recognised as a liability, discounted, but it's so just highlight that to the councillors. You had revaluation of land during the year, and that went up by $45 million, which reflects the buoyant property market. And you had the annual infrastructure revaluation, and there was a 24 million increase in that. So in terms of misstatements, the misstatements that we found which have been adjusted principally relate to the land revaluation and the community housing sale, and there was a few disclosure misstatements. So those are the issues out of the audit that I just wanted to highlight to the council. So is there any questions on those?
Thank you, John. Any questions for John? Councillor Noonan.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, John. The 5.1 million that's held there, that is only for a period of time, isn't it?
So it's for 15 years. So it's there to provide rental top-ups for people that weren't getting concessions, and it's there for housing intensification costs. So the expectation is that Housing New Zealand will actually spend that money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Skinner.
I think it might be a fairly simple one. Page 197, 5.3 rating deficit. Rates deficit of 2.5 million against our annual plan. How's that? That means that we didn't get all the money from all our rates. Is that?
No, I'll go to Ms Harrison to respond to that one.
So through the chair, you meaning that so we ran a deficit in rating because we had a 0% rates increase in this financial year, which is why it was a rating deficit, and we had planned to have a rating deficit. The very small variations to do with water rates, because you don't know exactly what that's going to be.
Okay, that wasn't part of the unbalanced budget. No, okay, yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, no further questions? All right, John, thank you very much. I just
sorry, Madam Mayor, I've got a few questions that I have to ask under auditing standards. So just to make sure that everybody's aware of what you are signing on their behalf in the letter of representation. So post-balance date events, there's 3 types of events: business as usual, events that occur after balance date which are of such significance that readers need to know about them, or events that require adjustment to the financial statement. So if you had a large debtor, they went into receivership, you would provide for that. So it's the last 2 that we're interested in. There's nothing in those categories that needs to be disclosed.
just ask any elected members aware of any matters in relation to the items identified by Mr Mackey that you feel he needs to be aware of. I'm not aware of any matters, Mr Mackey.
Right, thank you.
And no elected member is raising a matter at this point. Thank you.
Related party disclosures, challenge that we have with those is we don't know what relationships senior management and councillors have, so who, what they have through trusts. So we're reliant to some degree on what you disclose. So you're confident that what's being disclosed in the annual report is a comprehensive and complete record.
Any concerns from elected members? Councillor Sanson?
I guess only that it's that we still don't have transparency over the interest register for all elected members. I think we've still got 1 elected member outstanding who hasn't disclosed anything.
I'm not aware of any matters, Mr Mackey.
Right, okay, no, that's fine. Laws and regulations, so that we don't do a comprehensive legislative compliance audit, but we are required, I'm required under the auditing standards to ask you about whether there was any breaches that you know that, of any significant legislation that could impact, have a major impact on Nelson City's operations. So a conviction under the Health and Safety in the Workplace Act, or non-compliance with a significant resource consent, non-compliance with the Building Act. Is there anything significant that
I just ask any elected members, are they aware of any significant issues?
Some fairly significant health and safety issues in terms of wellbeing of elected members.
Right, Final question. Are you aware of any significant actual or suspected fraud?
I am not aware of any suspected or actual fraud. Any elected members aware of any suspected or actual fraud? Councillor Sampson?
Not fraud, but I do have some concerns around conflicts of interest to do with, existing contractors being involved in leading work that council has agreed to be an independent review. So, yeah, just have some concerns in that space. I've raised them several times through appropriate channels.
And they have been considered by the officers. So there's no fraud matters that we are aware of.
Okay, no, that's good. So I'd just like to thank Nikki and her team and the others involved in the process for their work, because it's been a very difficult year with the LTP, COVID-19, Three Waters reforms, and so it goes on. So, yeah, so thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, John. And likewise for you, I was saying before you came on, I know it's been really challenging now for the last couple of years with that border closure, and you trying to manage an enormous number of audits without the team that you can often fly in to assist. So just really thank your team for the work that they do, and thank you for the acknowledgement of our team. We're really proud of the work that they do, and we believe they've put together a very good annual report. So thank you for the collaboration, but also the testing, because it's important that you do that. We value that at a governance level.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye. Have a lovely Christmas.
You too. Thanks.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. In that case, no any further debate. Do we want any debate? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now, does that conclude the emissions? We need now to do with the emissions item, and Daniela's come back to see us. Now, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Daniela before. Yes, I do, but I need to finish this public item first, so we very quickly deal with this one, and then we're going back into public excluded. So just very quickly, this is to deal with the submission. So we had some outstanding matters, and we had some feedback from Councillor Neil Stevens that he considered the statements in the submission to be misleading, and that does concern me. So, pardon? I'm sorry?
I don't think misleading.
Would you like to put your microphone on, Councillor?
Sorry, as I mentioned to you earlier, I think that misleading was a poor choice of words. I think what I was trying to say was it wasn't representing it wasn't necessarily misleading. I felt more misrepresenting where I thought the council's view on things was.
Okay, so you would like to now withdraw your statement that the officer produced a submission that was misleading?
Yes.
Because that's, thank you. So it's important that you put that on the public record, because that's quite a thing to be saying. Caused me quite some concern in terms of the integrity of the officers. Danielle, nice to see you back. So are there any final questions that we needed to answer, or are we all done?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have here Maxine to reply the answer about planning and the feedback in the submission. So if you can help me with that, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm not entirely sure that it needs too much of a response, given Rohan's statement, largely to reinforce that the statements in the report and submission are factually correct. It's just probably something that we need to have a discussion about, understanding that there's a bit of nuance between what the legislation says and perhaps where the government wants it to go, and what the options for the council are going forward. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Maxine. It did surprise me, because knowing the officers are very experienced and very diligent in this space. So anything further?
Through the chair, the other question was about transport and waste. Margaret was going to come, but while we wait for her, I got in contact with the staff that was the author of that paragraph, and the term clean landfill, clean fields, sorry, the term is correct. And the answer provided was that the Ministry for the Environment has defined acceptable clean field material in the 2002 document, a guide to the management of clean fields. The only difference between the materials listed above and the landfill is the organic material. Therefore, if we take out the organics from our landfill, we, by the definition of the Ministry for Environment, get a clean field. So I think it's, and that's something that you can discuss in another opportunity with the staff member. It's a pity that we didn't have the opportunity to discuss your concerns before the submission was submitted. But I can provide this full answer for you.
Thank you. I'm satisfied with that one.
And the other one is about transport, which also Margaret Tim. Councillors' concerns that we seem to be against free fares or cheaper public transport, as we don't focus entirely on the positives of free fares regarding transport equity and access to low-cost transport options. To be fair, we do state that targeting lower socioeconomic areas demographics is a positive, and we state that we are supportive of lower cost and lower emission transport options in the submission. It wouldn't be a well-written submission if we omitted our concerns with the effects of free fares where we have them. So that's the answer from the transport team.
Thank you. It's robust. Thank you, Daniela. All right, that's addressed all of the issues. As far as I'm concerned, that's good to go. It's been moved and seconded. Debate.
I do just want to clarify on mainly on the clean fill issue, because I did check the guidance, and it is quite clear that things like asphalt wouldn't, even though that is not organic material, is not acceptable in a clean fill. And you know, things like car bodies also aren't acceptable. So I still think that we do actually have an issue there around defining it as just not including organic material, because the MFE advice is very clear that it's more specific than that. It's about waste that will do no harm when it is buried, which isn't limited to organics.
All right, well, given the time of day, the significant issues that we still yet have to deal with, the fact that the officers are trying to respond because they didn't get these things prior, I'm just going to keep moving on if that's all right, because I really do think we've got some more important things to deal with today. Right, moving into debate. Does anyone wish to debate? Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and just acknowledging Daniela and all her hard work. I'm a fan. I really appreciate everything you do. Unfortunately for me, I'm speaking against this. I don't feel able to support council's emissions reduction plan. I do, however, I am happy to endorse local governments and Taituara emissions reduction submissions. Sorry, it's not a plan, it's a submission. I think my main areas of concern are on page 222, the suggestion that renewable energy is an appropriate use for carbon capture and storage when carbon capture and storage is not even commercially proven. And the Minister for Climate Change, when he was speaking around New Zealand's updated emissions reduction targets, spoke about how we actually need to deploy an additional 70% of renewable energy before the end of this decade, just to meet the growth in energy demand, irrespective of all of these other potentially technological fixes that might be coming at some point in the future. But there is a lot of I would say skepticism about carbon capture and storage, and I was quite surprised to find that in our emissions reduction submission. I'm also concerned about the waste area and kind of rejection of standardisation across the country being a good idea. From the, the research and groups that I'm involved with outside of council are looking at initiatives for circular economy. Waste standardisation across the country is a really critical part of that. So I'm also concerned about the public transport comments, and I think a comment that we weren't sure if more affordable public transport was an effective way of reducing emissions. I mean, I even saw a post today from a government organisation that was comparing some environmental initiative with the numbers of cars that we get off the road. Everything that we can do to support modal shift away from single car usage towards public transport, share rides and active transport is absolutely a win for emissions reduction. So, and then finally the forestry, like honestly, I was personally embarrassed reading it. There was a line saying that the current policy settings and legislation and all of that was absolutely fine, nothing needed to change. And everybody that I know of who works in forestry says that there are issues. There's issues around, I'm not going to go into the details, but there is, the government's working in that space already on introducing more robust legislation and policy. So for us to say that what we've got at the moment is okay, I was very surprised. So not to detract from any of the good work of our fantastic staff, but I'm just unable to support this. So I'm not endorsing Nelson City Council's emissions submission.
Going to put the motion. No one else has indicated they wish to speak. Is that right? Everyone's happy with that? I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
Aye.
Right, it sounds like it's lost on the voices. I'll just get a show of hands. Those who are in favour of sending in our submission. 1, 2, 3. Those against? Oh, sorry, and Judine 4. And those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Apologies, staff. Will have to be withdrawn. All right, we're now going to go to back into public excluded. Is that all of our public business concluded, Robin and Elaine? We'll move that we go into public excluded business, seconded by Councillor Brand. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye, against carry. So here's me. We sit in line of sight. Whoever sits there is doing a lot of the work at the council table. Brief